Disney plans to release a Star Wars movie every year, switching between the new trilogy and a series of so-called anthology films, and if Rogue One is a good indicator of how the latter will perform, I can't wait for the next one. Inevitably, the conversation will go between which one you thought was better, this or 7, but to me the comparison is unnecessary. They're not really similar other than the fact that they both say Star Wars somewhere in the title. Rogue One is probably one of the most different feeling Star Wars movies, and unlike the prequels, that's a good thing. The story is about a girl named Jyn Erso, whose father was taken by the Empire to help them build the Death Star, who is herself taken by the rebels in hopes of finding him and stopping him. The story is about how they got the plans to the Death Star and to explain its weakness. But the thing I liked most about Rogue One, and probably the best part about it, was showing another side to the rebellion. This isn't a group of valorous heroes who stick it to the bad guys and get nice shiny medals. This is the dark underbelly of the rebellion. This is the snipers, the washouts, the turncoats, and the guys willing to do the dirty work while other people get to play hero. Rogue One offers a different perspective on the universe. This isn't a Star Wars movie revolving around Jedi and Skywalkers. This is about guys you don't know about who give their lives so that people you care about can save the world. This isn't a movie about someone who believes in the Force and becomes an awesome badass who does flips and shit. This is about a guy who believes in the Force and dies for what he believes. This is the better aspect of Rogue One. From a technical standpoint, Rogue One looks amazing. The fight scenes are well filmed and the action is exhilarating. The low camera angles as the rebels face an AT-AT give a sense of scale that was unprecedented in, say, Empire Strikes Back. The movie really does give a sense that you're watching underdogs take down a superior foe. And I've seen people complain about these characters, and I'm not going to say that they have a lot of depth or that they're all my favorite, but to say there's nothing to them is a bit misleading. I did find K2SO funny. I thought he was going to be my least favorite, but I actually ended up liking him. All the characters, such as the blind monk and his gun-toting friend, the Imperial traitor, and Jyn and Cassian, all get their little scenes and moments. The introduction of Cassian Andor, for example, goes to show these are the shadier characters of the rebellion. We're introduced to this character meeting in a dark alley with some sort of informant, and when they're spotted and the informant starts getting hysterical, Cassian shoots him so he can't tell the stormtroopers what he told him. This isn't what Luke would do, but this isn't that kind of story. Then there's the ending. Yeah, so everybody dies. It feels as though there's no other way this story could have ended, but that's the crux of the story. These scrunts doing the dirty work so that the galaxy can stand a chance against the Empire, sacrificing themselves so that the rebellion can live on. Despite this downer ending, the movie still decides to end on a high note. It shows the plans making their way to Princess Leia, showing that their sacrifice was not in vain. Now, all that being said, the movie's not perfect. While I don't mind fan service necessarily, this movie has some okay service and some completely unnecessary. There's a part where those two aliens from the cantina who are harassing Luke in episode 4 show up for a brief cameo. I'm not sure what their names are, and I'm sure I could find out on Wikipedia, but these characters aren't important enough to care about. Why did this movie feel the need to give Buttface and Pignose a cameo? Then there's also a brief appearance of C-3PO and R2-D2 that's so random. It's really awkward too. It cuts to the droids during the middle of the action scene. C-3PO says something I didn't catch, and then cuts back as if nothing happened. You literally could have cut their cameos out and not missed anything. Then there's CGI Tarkin and Leia. While Leia's appearance was short and made sense as the movie pretty much ends right where episode 4 starts off, her CGI didn't look bad, mostly because she doesn't move much. Grand Moff Tarkin's CGI was okay at best, scary at worst. It's not so much that the CGI looks bad, it looks like him, but when he moves, it's in the uncanny valley. While I can understand experimenting with this technology, and given what happened to Carrie Fisher at the end of the year, they're probably going to try and perfect it, but it needs a little work. It would have been better if they just got an actor that looked like Peter Cushing. Ultimately, Tarkin can be argued as fan service, but I think it makes sense for the guy who's supposed to be in charge of the Death Star overseeing its construction, especially before he takes command of it, so I didn't see a problem with him being in the movie. Then there's the eponymous Darth Vader. I don't know if they were trying to make his suit look older, but it looked a little off. And I know that the last scene was fan service. They could have ended the movie differently, but fuck it, that last scene with Vader was awesome. As I've said, the good things about Rogue One is it offers a different perspective on the universe. The last scene was from the perspective of the rebel troopers, so how would Darth Vader be seen from that perspective? Oh, that's right, he would be a villain in a slasher flick. Vader is always talked about as this unstoppable force and attack dog of the Emperor, and for the first time on film he is shown that way. As the troopers try getting the Death Star plans, Vader is mowing them down in a dark hallway. This scene was atmospheric and haunting, and yes, awesome. I'm okay with that kind of fan service. Now, I didn't find these characters as boring as some other people, but a little more development wouldn't have hurt. Take for example Saw Gerrera. This veteran of the Clone Wars guerrilla fighter could have been fleshed out more. Yes, he was in the Clone Wars TV show, but you could have used his appearance in this movie to flesh him out more. The idea of someone fighting the Empire that isn't part of the rebellion could make for some interesting conflict, but he sort of dies before you can really learn anything about him, and he just comes off as crazy. Not to mention his death just seems easily avoidable, like he just decides to die for drama's sake. And Forrest Whitaker really goes all in his performance, like Vincent D'Onofrio in Magnificent Seven. Some of the relationships between the characters could have used more expansion. Like with Jyn and Guerrera, we know he took care of and trained her after her parents were gone, and they have a bit of a conversation about it, but really never got to see it. Similarly, the Imperial trader Bodhi Rook defected because he was inspired by Galen, but we don't really see the extent of this relationship either. A few more scenes to flesh out these characters and relationships, maybe instead of trying to cram R2-D2 and C-3PO in, would have done more to enhance it. But I did feel for the characters as they all died in a nuclear fallout, so it wasn't a complete failure. And about the story. Did we really need a movie about how exactly they got the Death Star plans? Not really, but I enjoyed it. Did they really need to explain the Death Star's weakness? No. You don't have to make a movie to explain every little detail of the original trilogy. I mean, what's next? A movie explaining how the hell that Loch Ness monster-looking creature got into the trash compactor in Episode 4? Rogue One is an interesting experiment for Star Wars, to try to branch out from Jedis and Skywalkers and tell a different kind of story. While some of the cameos and fan service felt forced and annoying, none of the bad ones really outstay their welcome. I hope Disney learns from some of the mistakes and takes some more interesting approaches to the further anthology series. I give Rogue One 3.5 out of 5 stars, worth checking out and hope to see more like it.